Warning. This show features dark subjects which may be triggering to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Chaos Jar. I'm J Wes Secord, the loud and obnoxious one. Hey. Our big bag of facts over here, Bad Ben.
Hey.
And as always, our good friend AT Token. So, let's do our house cleaning there.
All right, so follow us on Instagram and Twitter at BA Chaos Jar. And you can also follow J Wes on Twitter as well. You know, he'll give you that at the end of it. Go onto our Patreon and become an executive producer. You know, put money on there. You get early access to the bonus stuff, which the first bonus episode is actually going to be out probably this week. So,
yay!
So basically, you get the overflow, which is just us talking about the topic and then getting lost in a lot of other topics as well.
I don't even think we ever really get back to the original topic. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it kind of just goes in a circle. So rate, review, leave us 5 stars. You know, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to get us more listeners and everything. And yeah, that's about it for the day.
Yeah, and my Twitter, as he was mentioning, that is I'm glad you asked _. Feel free to ask me random questions, and I will give you random answers. It's kind of my thing. I'm not a very prolific tweeter, so just deal with getting responses and not really getting updates. And that being said, what's going into the jar today?
Well, this was kind of supposed to be your week.
What?
Yeah. You said that you were going to handle the topic this week.
Well, you know, stop the recording. Please stop it. Stop. Yes, my episode. That's right. Same recording session, not delayed. So I'm come back with a topic that was a little bit different from our usual topic. I just crapped my thumb right into the mic. Did you hear that? But anyway,
and now we have to go to the hospital.
Yeah. It's okay, guys. Well, delay. So this week is a very special episode. God, I think of Clone High whenever I say that.
As soon as you said it, that's all I had.
I know.
It's a very special episode of Clone High.
Fuck. I have decided I want to talk about The Mask.
So, like, Jim Carrey's mask?
I'm glad you asked. Shut up. So, we're going to be talking about the Jim Carrey's mask, except not the Jim Carrey's mask. The original source that this movie was based on. So, what?
I'm already confused.
I'm glad you asked. You know what? I'm going to say that a lot this episode. It's a go-to and everything. So, yeah. So, as I'm showing the fellas now, this is an omnibus of the original comic book that, by Dark Horse. What?
He's just showing his testicles.
I will be posting those pictures on social media later.
Glad you asked. So, The Mask movie is a great movie. I actually really love it. Jim Carrey does a great job with that whole, well, like, it's a comedy bit, right? Like, yeah. And, you know, it's funny, too, because when you really think about it, he's not there to play the main character. He's there to play the mask.
Yeah.
Because the character's a cartoon, and Jim Carrey is a cartoon. So it just kind of equals out.
Jim Carrey, the actor, is a cartoon. I will say that Jim Carrey, the person, he can be a cartoon, but he also is very, like, insightful and deep sometimes. Like,
yeah, he does, like, paintings and shit that, like, have very deep meanings for him and everything. It's actually kind of weird.
Yeah, like, and sometimes when he talks in interviews, he, like, for instance, when he was talking about, like, you know, how people on welfare shouldn't have to like suffer, and why does everybody point the picture, like always point over at them and be like, well, they're just lazy. And when he said that, like, you know, people who are in trouble should not be like, are not your enemy, like that's a very deep saying, and it really makes you think. Like,
yeah, you know, that almost goes hand in hand with my previous comments earlier about people attacking the wrong people.
Yeah.
About issues in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I'm kind of glad that got sort of segued in there.
Yeah.
I'm very happy. Thank you.
We went full circle.
Yeah, full circle.
We go back around to topics.
So, one of the things I'll bring up, I'll start by kind of giving us a quick history on the Mask character as itself. So, the Mask was originally created in 1987, and it was part of a, what would you call it, an anthology series done by Dark Horse called Dark Horse Presents. And the character was created by Mike Richardson and Mark Badgers.
Originally a short story?
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing with Batman and all that.
Oh,
because they were part of Detective Comics and stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of comic book characters. Like, even Superman started off as like small little anthology comics and then became something larger.
Exactly. And like the more popularity they got, the bigger they got. Actually, I like to bring up it's hilarious when people say DC Comics.
Yeah.
Because DC stands for Detective Comics.
Yeah.
It's like an ATM machine, you know? We all know those people. But way back when, in this small thing, it was actually the character and whatnot was actually gone by the name Mask, spelt by the French way, being Masque. But that was like a short thing, and that's just kind of where he came from. But the real Mask that we all know and love was actually created in a comic book series in 1989, and its debut comic was Mayhem. In most things, the Mask itself was a limited series, so it was a collection of small short stories put into a limited series together, and Mayhem is actually considered issue 0. That's where a large portion of the movie comes into play. This is that Mayhem storyline is the story of Stanley Ipkiss. I'm glad everyone's so insightfully involved.
Okay, so basically, issue 0 is the whole premise of the original movie.
Yeah, or at least where most of their content comes from.
It's basically like a loose adaptation.
Very, very loose. As Stanley Ipkiss is a completely different character in this.
So he's not a lovable loser in that.
I'm guessing he's insane.
Glad you asked.
No, not quite. Well, to start off, the Mask storyline in the comics is significantly darker. Thus why I'm putting it in the jar. The Mask in those storylines is actually more of a serial killer than an actual superhero or comedic cartoon character for the sake of that comedy. Like, it's just absolute hyper-violence.
So who's he killing? Or is it just everybody?
It actually depends on who's wearing the mask, which goes back... Yeah, so it goes back to Stanley Ipkiss, who...
Wait, so it's a serial killer mask. It just makes people's insane violent desires come out?
Yeah, actually, we'll get into that really soon, because, so obviously, Stanley Ipkiss, the first person to get the mask, and, we see Stanley Ipkiss in the movies, and we got Jim Carey, who's just, he's a lovable loser, he's nice, but he just doesn't have confidence and all that.
Yeah.
The Stanley Ipkiss in the comics looks oddly more like almost Rick Moranis in a sweater vest.
Okay.
Yeah, he actually looks a lot more of a just a general kind of this is kind of going to be a nerdy guy. He might be a lovable loser, but he's just kind of a regular loser. He's just picked on a lot all the time.
He's the guy who eventually is going to go to the clock tower, right?
Yeah, exactly, which is kind of what the premise of this comic is, because once he gets the mask, he gets it as a gift for his girlfriend, who he's giving it to her to apologize for something he did that was off the record in terms of the comic book storyline. But then he gets the mask, he puts it on, and that's when we're introduced to the character that is the Mask.
Yeah.
Now, in the comics, they refer to him as Big Head.
Okay.
Because he has a rather large, cartoonish head, and people, every time someone sees them, they're just like, some dude with a big head, and stuff like that. And Stanley Ipkiss starts, once he gains this power, he starts heading out and seeking out anybody who's wronged him in anything. Like, he just becomes this huge piece of shit who, like, he's watching news reports and has a list of people who wronged him in his life, and he's going for every individual little thing. There's a dude who owes him $60 and he's running this dude down with a car.
Well then.
Yeah.
Just perform shit.
Exactly. Like, he had no fucking just limits to where he go. And that's kind of what this mask does, as we were talking about. Because eventually, in terms of mayhem, Stanley Ipkiss, by the end of it, is actually killed. He dies. His girlfriend figures out what's going on, puts on the mask, kills him, and that's when, like, he's just gone from the story, and you're kind of like, oh wow, this whole hour-long movie we made is brought down to this, like, issue of a comic book, a single issue, and but one thing that we kind of get to learn is, as the mask goes from person to person, because each comic kind of just jumps around, we learn that the main character of the whole story is the mask itself.
Yeah.
The mask actually has a personality in this, and legit talks to the people who are trying to put it on. So, like...
Does it make them put it on? Like, or, like, influence them to?
It influences them to. The spirit, whatever it is in the mask, is incredibly violent and almost always wants them to go above and beyond.
And so,
to
like,
the most violent
and so, like, how they represented that whole call to the mask is with that shimmering effect that they had in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like, in the movie, the mask doesn't have as much of as an entity.
No.
But it does attach to people, as, like, we've seen Jim Carey throw it out.
It's more like a drug than a living thing.
Yeah, like, he throws it out the window, though, and it magically boomerangs back into his apartment. Because it still wants to do that. The mask, in general, you could describe it as an enabler. So its whole goal and purpose is to let people do what they've never had the ability to do. In terms of the comic, though, it goes way above that.
Yeah, the comic seems to just remove all... it basically depersonalizes them from the crimes they're committing.
Exactly. And it affects their mind to a certain point. Like I said, Stanley, he is... this is why I said sort of crazy, is he gradually becomes more and more obsessed with the power that he's getting from this mask. And that's why he keeps trying to get it and everything, and the cops are chasing him down, and he's just wiping them out. Now, that being said, as dark as it is...
Straight up menace.
Oh, yeah.
So he's, like, in the news and shit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That being said, it's still meant to be, like, a dark comedy, so, like, his actions towards things are fucking hilarious. Like, I remember... so I reread the original miniseries. I didn't go through all of them, but just to get through it, just so I had a grasp and it's fresh in my mind. But it's so funny because these cops are like, where is he? And there's an old lady, and he's like, he's just up there on the 5th floor. And they run by him. He's like, wait a second, did that old lady just have a beer? And they look back, and it's the mask dressed as the old lady with a bazooka, and he explodes the dudes at the top of the stairs. Like, it has a certain level. It's still fucking hilarious. Yeah, exactly.
It's over the top. It's over the top humor with over the top violence.
Exactly.
I mean, can only work in a comic.
It's so true.
In a real movie, though.
You know, I forgot to mention the comic miniseries, limited series. I'm all over the place. I have ADHD, so this is hard to keep focused even with notes.
Welcome to my issues.
But it was created by John Arcudi, Chris Warner, and Doug Mahnke. And I couldn't find. A lot of their original works, I couldn't find, anything that I would recognize, but I knew, John Arcudi did a large portion of, Hellboy and Hellboy, spin-offs.
Okay,
So, yeah.
You can kind of see where the darkness comes from a little bit.
Exactly. And thank you for the yawn. That makes me so encouraged.
It's been a very, very long day.
No, I get it. It's fine.
If I had something interesting to do.
But yeah, after Stanley Ipkiss dies, we go. The next person to obtain the mask is actually the only other character in the movie that actually existed in the comic books.
Eddie?
His dog.
Oh.
Is this guessing game? Because I kind of like this.
Characters to guess, unfortunately.
Well, there's his best friend as well, but...
I was thinking about that. I feel like that character was barely in the movie.
Straight up, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they cut out a lot of those, too.
Probably. Well, actually, I actually have the comic book adaptation of the movie, and it has all the deleted scenes in it.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Like, in all honesty, I feel like they just I feel like he could have been a much more pivotal character, but they just kind of put him as like a backdrop.
Yeah, and it's funny when you think about it, because there are moments in the movie when you're kind of like, they want him to seem like he was more involved because he knew some things that just I don't think he should have known.
Yeah, almost like he knew this whole thing was happening and was just allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
Yet...
Well, yeah, no, the only character that was that the movie had, Stanley Ipkiss, and the only other character that the movie had that was in the original comics was Lieutenant Kellaway.
Okay.
Okay. That's who I would have guessed.
Yeah, Lieutenant Kellaway is, aside from the mask, is the closest thing to a main character the stories actually have.
Wait, this is gonna get insane, because he's a cop with a gun. So it's like reality.
Yeah! So...
everyone's
current events.
So he's the one who he gets the mask, and we see that he's in a situation where like there's a drug dealer he wants to get off the street, but like there's no the evidence disappears, and there's all these issues involving it. So he starts doing vigilante justice with the mask and everything, and this is actually where we get some of our hilarious scenes from the movie, like the whole balloon animal bit was actually from this storyline. So, like, there's a couple dudes who are robbing a store, and they go around an alley, and they're like, I think we lost him and everything. It's like, hey, boys, how's it going? Want to see a balloon animal? And he actually makes the giraffe, he makes the dog, and then he makes the Tommy gun, and he blows them away. Like, it's hilarious. But yeah, actually, another scene that was in the movie that was actually taken from the comic book was the mechanics.
Okay.
They were actually in the comic. Do you not remember the?
I remember the mechanics, but they're basically maimed or dead at the end of the movie. Like,
no, they just.
What has his head up his ass?
No, he has a muffler.
A muffler, yeah, that's not going to be fun getting out.
No,
but it's not. While it wouldn't traditionally be fatal.
Yeah, like
there was no lube involved. We'll say
exactly. Like the whole thing it's a little more cartoony, and they try to make it more friendly for the kids. But like in the
I did see that as a kid. And I really shouldn't have.
You should see a censored version of that movie. It's fucking hilarious.
In all honesty, there's a lot of stuff that we watched as kids that should not have been portrayed to us.
Yeah. But, like, I remember the censored version, like, the big bad guy, instead of saying son of a bitch, he'd be like, son of a pig! And it would just be weirdly overemphasized. But yeah, no, in the comic, the one dude is hanging from a rope from the ceiling, and he has multiple different tools stabbed into his face.
Okay.
And the other guy had an entire muffler shoved down his throat. So his entire head had sort of collapsed and become the shape of the muffler.
Yeah.
Good image.
Yeah, I know, right? This is why mechanics should always be honest and not fuck with people, because you never know when you'll get a magical, mystical deity mask that will cause them to seek revenge and kill you brutally.
Well, the guy who doesn't drive.
They didn't know that.
Just learn to fix your own car. It's much easier.
But yeah. So
And I drive.
said that like the old shake and bake commercials.
And I helped.
So yeah, Detective Calloway gets the mask, and then he's going on this vigilante justice thing. Like he does a lot of stuff to keep it and everything. But it isn't until the police start coming after him that things get, like, really bad. And one of the moments when we see how crazy the influence of the mask is, because he just about kills his partner.
Okay.
And he, like, puts a stick of dynamite in his mouth and he's lighting it. You know, hilarious cartoon effects.
Yeah.
And then he pulls it out and he's like, what's going on? And he's like, oh my god. And he takes off. And then he's so afraid of it that he actually takes the mask off and he buries it in, like, cement in his basement. And I'd like to say that's where it ends, but it's not.
Well, it never is.
No. The stories do keep going, and like I said, they pass from different person to different person. And there's some really neat influences from the comics, from Darker Moments that do, like we were talking about, affect the movies and even that cartoon series that went.
Yeah.
There is a character with weird round glasses, who's voiced by Tim Curry in the cartoon.
Yes!
Okay.
Tim Curry!
And he's like supposed to be an evil mad scientist or whatnot, and he has a henchman named Walter, who's just this sort of Frankenstein-looking dude who is basically indestructible.
Okay.
There is a version of both these characters in the comics, Walter actually being the same Walter, and the other dude being a drug dealer.
Good to know.
Yeah, but like they brought them back because it was the most comic booky aspect and an actual villain in terms of the storylines and everything.
Yeah.
Now, the original limited series had 3 main storylines.
Okay.
There was more past that, but the third part was the first one to be released after the movie had come out and been successful.
Okay.
So it was a little bit more tame comparatively.
Yeah.
So
kind of like how Kick-Ass got like kind of moved around a little bit after.
Yeah, the movie kind of treats the second comic book like it was like events in the first comic book didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it doesn't go that far. It still keeps its continuity, but they did lessen the violence because they assumed kids might end up reading it or something like that. So like a group of random teenagers each individually take the mask, and you get to see their stories as they have it, and like one of them obviously wants to be a superhero because he has superpowers now and whatnot, and then one of them's like a rebel and he wants to fight against the government and all that. And I think that one was one of my favorite scenes because he hands one of those spherical bombs to one of the cops, and it explodes in their face. But they just have blackened face, and it's like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. but I feel humiliated.
I still feel wronged.
yeah. And honestly, there's a lot of good stuff there. I know I'm still kind of struggling being the host. I'm not used to this. This is, I'm not going to lie, I am...
anxious.
What? And I was kind of still unsure when we started this how I was going to format it. I wanted to try and create a narrative and like do a direct comparison with the movie, but the problem is there's like that stuff exists already, and so I just wanted to talk about the comic books and get you guys involved. You can ask questions. God, I feel like the energy's dying. I'm just gonna keep talking.
We're all good. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, okay.
We're all excited, right, folks? Come on. Cheer them on!
I'm just gonna drink some water now.
Well, does the mask ever get on anybody like genuinely evil already and just get wildly out of hand? Because it seems
kind of like
the
in the
perfect bad guy weapon.
Kind of like in the movie when the main villain gets it, or I forget his name, but
Dorian.
Yeah, when he gets it, as soon as he gets it, he turns into just a complete sociopathic monster because he was already a sociopath, but this has just enabled him even further. So,
so the answer to that question is yes. It's actually really funny because as I mentioned before, the comics, the main limited series goes on past the three that I mentioned before.
Yeah.
Pardon me. But eventually they get to an ending, and then there's a mask. Then the mask gets kind of put away with a shipping on a plane and everything.
Okay.
And as it's shipping away, we don't know what happened to it and everything, and that was supposed to be the last issue. And then I bought this omnibus.
Is it still going?
We'll get to that in a minute. I bought this omnibus, which made a comic book series based on the cartoon that was based on the movie.
Okay.
And, but it actually shows a bunch of different other alternative, like, side comics that a lot of people didn't know about. And one of them I found was called A Mask is No Island.
Okay.
And it actually dictates. So first off, it explains. It's these two scientists or archaeologists who find the mask, and they're talking about it and what it looks like and everything. This is where we learn that in the comics, the mask has nothing to do with Norse mythology. Norse mythology.
Because
I said North several times.
Because in the movie, it's supposed to be a representation of Loki, but that was just so that they could use the trickster image.
Exactly, and the mask's design in the movie is a lot more our North American. Yeah, it's a lot more North American depiction of what like Viking stuff would look like. So you got the plank of wood with the iron bar on the nose and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Where in the original comic, if I show you here, it actually looks a lot more. Fuck are you, mask? It almost looks more like bits of jewels. That sort of. You can see it there.
Oh, I see. Oh, it's like a giant carved gem.
Yeah.
I see. It's kind of like quartzed out. Like
It's far more valuable.
Yeah.
And like an actual piece of art, as opposed to something somebody dropped.
Which is why he bought it for his girlfriend as a.
Okay, that makes far more sense and doesn't wrap it.
Yet again, that
That
also probably lends into the movie with the whole shimmering effect of the inside of the mask.
Exactly. They probably wanted to create as much as they could from the original comic as possible. Actually, there's a very interesting tidbit, which I'll get to once I finish my current explanation. So we have the two archaeologists, and they're talking about the mask, and they start going into stories surrounding this mask and how, how it got from the plane to them.
Yeah.
So, one of the pilots just, it popped out, they found it, they put it on, and they actually end up causing a huge crash of the plane. from the wreckage of the plane, like a little girl finds it who comes from an abusive home, ends up putting on slaughtering the abusive people and everything they find. From there, she ends up, because she's alone now, she ends up going along, she meets some people, and then it just gradually jumps from person to person up until these people find these archaeologists and end up in their possession. And they talk about it, and then they box it back up, and they're driving away. And this is the cool part, and why I wanted to say a real villain gets it, is as they're driving along, it zooms out, and you see half of an "you are entering" sign.
Yeah.
And you see the letters GOTH.
I don't know.
I'm glad you asked. Because officially the story ends here.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
That is the
So
mask.
just so you all know what it is, it's the mask with Joker from
the
Batman.
mask grabbing Batman's horns of his mask, and Batman's, I guess, holding the Joker by his shirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Joker's just losing it.
So,
Like team up? Villainous team up?
this is actually what happens is, so the story actually ends in Gotham.
Okay.
So that's what I meant by the GOTH, is it's supposed to be Gotham by the little cut off there. And in the storyline, they're robbing a mask museum or something, because Joker has some sort of weird thingy-madoogle. And one of his henchmen puts on the mask, turns into the mask, and then Joker tricks him to removing the mask, shoots him with a gun camera, because he's Joker, and then Joker puts on the mask, and we get this
Double crazy?
Oh yeah, so like almost the entirety of Gotham City goes into shit. Batman is put into a coma. He basically just rules Gotham, and Detective Calloway actually shows up in the storyline to help Batman sort of get it all set up. And this is where the storyline it comes to a conclusion. Now these are old comics, so I hope people don't mind the spoilery parts of these that I've been depicting. Either way, I still suggest checking them out. But Batman convinces Joker to remove the mask, because in the comics, only the person who wears it can remove it.
Yeah.
And he gives the mask to Calloway, who buries it in the grave of Stanley Ipkiss, so it would never see the light of day again.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Seems like a fitting end.
Yeah, and you'd think that,
No,
but while I was doing my research, I just found out fucking last year they just started a new limited series based on The Mask called I Pledge Allegiance to the Mask, where a political candidate gets the fucking mask. And I fucking want this thing because I didn't know it existed. But like, you can tell it's new because, well, one of the comic titles is "Make America Green Again," and stuff like that. And like, the last one literally the last issue just came out in January.
Okay.
Yeah, this year. So I was really
as
cool.
of this recording, before the pandemic.
Yeah.
What?
And I thought that was really cool. I wanted,
And if we ever get on YouTube, we just got demonetized.
no, we can just bleep it.
That's true.
Bleeping is actual work. But yeah, that's where the story should have ended, and then it's really cool that they kind of brought it back again, and I'm actually really stoked about that.
Tell me his dog dug it up.
What?
Tell me his dog dug it up.
His dog was never in the comics.
No, I know.
Yeah. And it's still way
Well, then
better.
I'm out of here.
It's still way better than that movie that shall not be named.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that.
So-
Anyway.
The movie that he's speaking of is, the...
I
I definitely would not call it a sequel, but I'm sure someone believed it was a sequel.
La la la. Stupid.
Yeah.
Um.
What a terrible movie.
So aside from the Joker, though, The Mask had a whole bunch of crossovers with DC. So we got like crossover with Lobo from DC Comics.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now you're doing it.
What?
You said DC Comics.
Oh fuck! Well, it's unfortunate because
All right, guys.
that's already in the world now.
All right, so after this, we gotta go to the ATM machine.
Yeah.
The worst.
Can anyone check my SIN number?
Yeah. And for those of you in the United States, that's a social security number. That's what we call it.
We adopted that here in Canada Town, USA, because that's how Canada does it.
Yeah. Anywhere out of Middle Dakota, it's still called an SSN.
Yeah. What?
Well, sorry, an SSN number.
Yeah. What? Thank you. But yeah, there's a short period of time when Dark Horse tried to make their own little comic universe, and The Mask has a bunch of crossovers with a whole bunch of them.
Okay.
Actually, you might like that particular miniseries because it's all psychology based.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And basically, I fucking love The Mask.
Yeah.
Way more depth than you'd imagine.
Yeah.
At least based on everyone's source material being the movie.
It's true, and the movie wasn't, like I said, the movie's not bad, and, because, it still worked for what it was. What a lot of people don't know is that the movie's originally supposed to be a horror film. Wow. Great reaction, guys.
With Jim Carey as the lead?
No.
I kind of already knew this was supposed to be, because, before I found it was adapted from a comic, I thought that, somebody had mentioned to me before when I was younger that it was originally written with the horror aspect inside of it, and that's why they had kept the whole gangsters and guns and all this kind of stuff happening. But then they turned it into a comedy over time to kind of fit with the motif of it.
It was actually, they just weren't sure how they were going to do the horror aspect. And they were kind of going through a bunch of things. And they also wanted to avoid actors like Rick Moranis, who looks more like the Stanley Ipkiss from the comics, as opposed to. Actually, I didn't even show you guys. This is comic book Stanley Ipkiss.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see Rick
your
Moranis.
neighbor on the lawn yelling at kids.
Yeah.
Even holding an umbrella doing the.
I know.
What I love is there's a glow behind that umbrella, so it almost makes the umbrella look like it's a mythical item. With this, I shall smite these kids on my lawn.
But yeah, so they were trying to avoid that, and they couldn't quite get the right formula. And so they started working on the comedy aspect of it. And it wasn't until the imagery of Jim Carey doing Cuban Pete.
Yeah.
They were like, this is what the movie is now. I'm not lying. That part was that concept came up long before the movie was done because of Jim Carrey. Just because they wanted Jim Carrey to do Cuban Pete.
Fair enough.
I could see that.
I know, it's fucking hilarious. And
which is iconic for the era. It makes sense. How many people is he in for?
Well, at that time too, that's when he was really rising into his stardom, because Ace Ventura, and he had really capitalized on the Saturday Night Live thing, and
he wasn't on Saturday.
It's Mad TV. That's a
nope.
No?
In Living Color.
There we go. Yeah. There's so many of these, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Man. Another expertise that I have, actually. I used to watch all three Actually, no, Mad TV not as much, but that's only because...
See, I only knew... So, I knew that all three shows existed, but I attribute In Living Color more back towards the early 80s rather than, they being in the late 80s and 90s kind of thing. Whereas I see I know that Saturday Night Live has been on for a long, long time.
Since 76.
Yeah, because the Belushis and so on.
Yeah.
But then I also attribute it to because it's still modern day. While Mad TV, I also saw like it hit kind of its peak in the 90s. So I think that's where I got kind of roped into the whole thought that, it must have been Mad TV that was on. But no, I got way lost on that one.
Yeah, I know. And in all fairness, In Living Color, I think it declined a bit in its later seasons, mostly because most of the Waynes had left at that point. So, like, Damon, Keenan, Sean, and Marlon, none of them were there at the end, and so it was mostly white comedians and Tim Meadows.
And that's also... That's all I can picture. No, and that's also when the height of their careers was starting to take off, when they were starting to produce their own movies as well. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because Keenan was actually the mastermind behind a lot of it. Keenan, but it's a 3-name name. Well, whatever. Keenan, he was the one who was basically the writer behind most of their comedy works. But yeah, going back to The Mask there, actually I had a thought and it's lost, so just find the...
why is this one in particular your favorite?
I've always had...
Keenan Ivory.
I knew it was an I. I couldn't.
He actually has like 7 names, and he's a junior. So, and I'll just leave the junior at junior.
Yeah, fucking.
Because I live. So again, shout out to like Small Town Murder and Crime and Sports. But because I listen to those shows, anytime I see a junior, I'm automatically this is gonna be trouble.
Jesus. But anyway, you're saying
why is this important to you?
Yes. You know what? Did I even establish that it was my favorite at the beginning?
Not at the beginning, but like midway.
Oh, okay, yeah. This is like my all-time favorite comic of all time. And two major reasons for it is, one, I really liked the comedy of it. Like, there was something special about like growing up with that movie, finding this comic book and seeing this like picture of the Mask looking so fucking creepy with a fist ready to punch through someone's face.
Red Skull.
Yeah. I also have a fascination with color green, but that's a bonus.
So there were 3 reasons.
But the
don't kink shame.
Yeah, bitch.
There was no shame involved in that.
Yeah. I don't even know what I just said there. Yeah, I really enjoyed like the comedy, and it took a new aspect. It was also more stories on The Mask, and because there was no limitations to it, it was great to sort of see that broadening amount of storyline. Even though it's more violent, it actually somehow made everything seem much more interesting. The situations were a lot bigger, as opposed to just some dude who mischievously just kind of like had ADHD and was like, I'll do this, and the catchphrase in the cartoon was, but first,
Well, in all honesty, like even the aspect of the cartoon, what I actually really like about the Mask's unique kind of take on any sort of thing is that, like, with comics, we get a lot of, you have set characters as the specific, like, so for instance, we know that Batman is, spoiler alert, Bruce Wayne.
Bruce Brain.
It's
Bruce Brain. Bruce Brain Wayne.
Yeah. Or like, the Hulk is Bruce Banner, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, so on. Yeah, I'm just giving them all away.
I was just hoping you'd go through all the Bruces, because you started with the first Bruce, went to the second Bruce.
But then we also know that, for instance, Batman, at one point, Bruce Wayne dies. So Dick Grayson does step up to the mantle, and then eventually there's the whole resurrection and everything like that. But like these characters, when they evolve, it makes it a little harder for them to continue the storyline without having to go back to the original character, because people get so ingrained in the specific character. Whereas the Mask, right away, it set the precedent of whoever wears it is the one that.
Yeah, and you actually hit one of my main points I was going to do is I have a crazy fascination with items of unlimited power being transferred from person to person. Because it really changes with the story. And I think you and I talked on it, like, outside of this, but, like, that exact thing. So we get these different people getting these different items with different goals and different personalities, and we're learning so much about who they are and why this power affects them so much. And, like, other comics that kind of do this would be, like, Witchblade.
Yeah.
Or The Darkness. Mind you, The Darkness doesn't do as much of the transitioning as it tends to focus on the one dude, but the legacy is there, and you do learn a little bit about the other people who had the darkness.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying with that. Like,
yeah, to an extent, I guess the Crow is also pretty good for that.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess it's more common, though, in the movies than the comic, because the comic kind of ends after the first guy.
What I love is that you mentioned The Crow, because I just finished listening to, again, another shout out to another podcast, Time Suck, and he did Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee.
Oh,
and
really?
They mentioned the whole fact that, like, how Brandon Lee's accident happened, and actually, I knew that it was about, like, the lead tip that got stuck inside, but I didn't realize why the lead tip was stuck inside of this gun. Like,
oh, what is it?
Oh, we'll have to actually do the Lee curse. I'm actually going to want to do that at some point.
Oh, okay.
But it is a very fascinating thing.
Well,
so,
if it's something called the lead curse, that'll be awesome.
The Lee curse.
Oh, Lee.
Yeah, he had the same thing the other day when I said it, and he said leak curse, and I was like, no, the Lee curse.
Oh, man.
I thought you said leakers. Like some people.
Yeah, the leakers.
Yeah, that basketball team, the Leakers.
The leakers.
The Toronto Leakers.
The Toronto leakers.
But yeah, so
they have the leak on, eh?
Yeah. Oh, how's it going, eh? I'm not sure which character I just put in there. I'm not sure if it's that one racist one who's in between all of them. Oh, it is! It's his rock! I don't even remember who he was, but he's rock!
The funny thing is that J Wes actually just put on a mask and suddenly he was here.
I actually have a friend of mine actually made me a recreation of the comic book mask.
Nice.
I was gonna bring it out here, but I forgot to. So
we'll take a picture of it and put it on social media, though.
Yeah. I don't see why not. But yeah, I think that's it for basically all I had. I'm not sure what our time's at right now, but
Almost 50 minutes.
Oh, cool!
Filled the time.
I filled it. Good, everyone. I'm a time filler. Just screaming into the mic. But I have to say, there are a couple of short 2-panel comics I've been looking for forever that are of the mask, and I'm actually going to put this out there. If anyone knows where I can find this, fucking post it to me.
Yeah, send it to a DM on the Instagram or on Twitter or even to his Twitter, or send me a message on Facebook and I'll transfer it over to his account so that he has it.
Yeah, exactly. So these titles are Walter, Campaign of Terror, Grifter in the Mask, Lobo Mask, The Mask Martial Law, Itty Bitty Mask. If anybody knows where I can get those things, I don't have a lot of money, but I would fucking love to have a complete collection. That's how much I love the series in general.
And in all honesty, if you help us get a hold of this, we'll definitely shout you out on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Some sort of bounty involved. We're just not sure what.
A bounty.
A bounty. We will hunt you down.
They will hunt it for us.
No, we will hunt you down, we'll find you, and we shall gift you with pleasantries.
I thought that was going to be a whole different thing, and I was like, I'm kind of out. You guys have fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad no one commented I said pleasantries.
Oh, I caught it. I was like,
Let's not be off.
I'm going to give you...
He's definitely going to enter your pledge.
Into a very specific place.
But no kink shaming.
No kink shaming. Don't do that.
King Sherry.
King Sherry's okay.
King Sherry. Yeah. That's how it's red.
As
Like a disease.
Oh wow!
It's like COVID.
Oh my god! It's rapidly crossing the nation. And unless you wear a mask, you're gonna get it. Wow! Why? We're fucking alienating the kink community now. God damn it, guys. No, who don't give a shit about YouTube anymore. Okay. Well, give us the cleanup.
All right. So if you enjoyed that, or us, kink sharing, you can rate and review. Follow us on Instagram. Again, Instagram or Twitter. Again, it's at BA Chaos Jar. Or, his Wes's direct one is at I'm glad you asked _ And
underscores and ellipses.
Yeah. Donate to Patreon. We'll shout your name out at the end of the show. It's again Pandora's Jar. It's in the show notes. You'll be able to find it. Rate, review, and yeah, that's it for the day. So.
Thank you, and good night.